thank you all for coming to attend our last keynote session today. So this is actually kind of a very interesting keynote for me to introduce, despite the fact that we both went to Florida, both went to Columbia, and yet this was the first week we've ever been in the same room at the same time. So we've had many online conversations. So Joshua Geller's from the University of North Florida. We both have a political science and climate science studies background. And so he's come today to talk about AI. So quite a jump there from environment to AI. But I do much of the same work myself. And so I'm happy to introduce today's keynote speaker and the current fellow for AI at his university, Joshua Gellers. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. I don't normally write my speeches, but I felt that this was a very important obligation, and so I felt like it was incumbent upon me to actually put this down into writing. So I'm also going to make this public when I do my, as I've promised, Vice Dean Sharapova, that I'll do a wonderful LinkedIn post recounting my time here. So look out for that. So to begin, I'd like to thank President Waqar Ahmad, Acting Provost Loretta O'Donnell, Vice Provost Shumabay Bakanov, Vice Dean Shazim Memon, Vice Dean Tina Sharapova, Head of Department Essam Shahab, and Dr. Jessica Nafi for their gracious invitation to speak at this venerable institution of higher education in Central Asia. It is an honor to be here today, and I am grateful for your warm hospitality. I would also like to thank the students of Nazarbayev University for their hard work, dedication, and inspiring research. Your scholarly efforts rival those you might find in the West, and you should be proud of your accomplishments. I know I am. I'd like to start today by briefly explaining how I got here. That is, how did a political scientist who specializes in environmental law and policy get into artificial intelligence? I spent most of my career studying the origins and impacts of constitutional environmental rights. But after I felt that I had answered or attempted to answer all of the interesting questions found in this very narrow topic, I began looking for my next project. That's when I observed people in my area, experts like Craig Kaufman, Louis Kotza, Aaron O'Donnell, and others, started writing about the rights of nature. I didn't know anything about the rights of nature, save for what I could glean from the term itself. So I began reading everything I could on this subject, everything that I could get my hands on. I sought to understand the state of knowledge and identify any research gaps that persisted. But while I was swimming in a sea of new work, I came across a tweet announcing that a humanoid robot named Sophia was granted honorary citizenship by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I was struck. How could humans, nature, and now robots all possess rights? Then serendipity intervened when my editor at Rutledge, Colin Perrin, asked if I had a new idea for a book. I wrote back that I was thinking about writing a book about robot rights. He expressed his enthusiasm for this idea and encouraged me to write up a proposal. 2 days later, I sent him a book prospectus, which he promptly sent out for review. The reviews were positive, so I signed a contract, applied for an internal grant to fund field research in Tokyo, Japan, and started my journey into AI. Less than 2 years later, I published the second book in the world on robot rights, and my life was forever changed. If there is a lesson in my journey, it is to follow your intellectual passions, no matter where they take you. The main title for this year's Nazarbayev University Annual Research Conference is Empowering Innovation. And I can think of no better example of a force for innovation that carries with it such tremendous potential for empowerment than artificial intelligence. And yet, AI's disruptive capacity has instigated a vituperative discourse between those who seek to resist this technology at all costs and those whose ideological leanings or profit imperatives drive a seemingly unending hype cycle. As is often the case with social media, this dichotomous framing has devolved into a kind of tribalism that pits otherwise intelligent people against one another in a competition over the rightful claim to the mantle of virtue and predictive accuracy. In my estimation, the clash over popular interpretations of AI is symptomatic of the larger tendency towards affective and political polarization that increasingly divides even putatively democratic societies. In light of this sad state of affairs, it is thus unfortunate, but perhaps not surprising, that the emergence of AI has sowed such rancorous division among experts, academics, and practitioners. Imagine if members of the AI intelligentsia worked together to solve problems with the technology instead of drawing lines in the sand that conquer by dividing. I am here to tell you that you need not resort to such counterproductive partisan bickering. There is another way to realize the benefits of AI while guarding against its real drawbacks: pragmatism. In the time I have before you, I hope to convince you of the necessity of this middle path by looking at two examples where the complex truth about AI lies between the hyperbolic fears of the resistors and the unshakable confidence of the hypers. But before I stake out the positions of these warring factions, I want to clarify what I mean by two terms: artificial intelligence and pragmatism. First, there are a dizzying number of definitions for artificial intelligence. Some highlight the ability of this technology to closely approximate human cognitive functioning, a nod to its origins at the Dartmouth Summer Research Project. Some focus more narrowly on the kinds of tasks it can execute, like automation, adaptation, and prediction. Still others describe it as an umbrella encompassing subdisciplines like computer vision, machine learning, natural language processing, and robotics. And a minority observers deem it an ideology that promotes an excessively optimistic view of its implications for sustainability, sociality, and economic prosperity. As one example, the EU's AI Act defines artificial intelligence as, quote, a machine-based system that is designed to operate with varying levels of autonomy and that may exhibit adaptiveness after deployment, and that, for explicit or implicit objectives, infers from the input it receives how to generate outputs such as predictions, content, recommendations, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments. But as a social scientist who dabbles in philosophy, and given the context of today's talk, I want to lean into insights from philosophy of technology and propose the following alternative definition: assemblages of technologies enmeshed in complex socio-technical contexts that are capable of translating inputs into actionable outputs. Now, what do I mean by a pragmatic AI future? Here I am drawing on pragmatic in two senses. The first is a colloquial one, meaning roughly sensible and cognizant of the constraints imposed by reality. The second one is more academic and loosely adheres to the term's development in philosophy. Drawing on the work of William James, John Dewey, and Charles Peirce, here I am referring to the importance of practical consequences for how we make meaning in the world, the epistemic humility that accompanies our acceptance that knowledge is fallible, meaning we can be wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes when it helps us learn, and how the search for truth is driven by experience, not just abstract thinking. I am deliberately setting aside the ideological purity tests that permeate our toxic online discourses in favor of a more grounded view that isn't wedded to our pre-existing beliefs and moral commitments. So in this speech, my appeal is that we take up pragmatism in this richer sense. We accept that AI is flawed and problematic in some ways, yet we also accept that it can help us solve major problems if we structure inquiry well, value local experience, and build correction into our practices. This isn't passivity or refusal, it's realism combined with imagination. Now that we have established the ground rules for discussion, let us turn to our first field of contestation, the question of AI's environmental impact. On one side, you have critics pouncing on every new metric that alleges to capture the energy or water use associated with the training or use of an AI model. By their measure, every executed prompt is a knife in the heart of efforts to address climate change. They extrapolate from the roughest of estimates, finding that each input, no matter how small, serves as a sinister drop in a vast, violent ocean of unchecked AI usage. For instance, a 2019 conference paper by Struble and others reached the now infamous conclusion that training a large AI model produces the equivalent of 5 lifetime carbon emissions of American cars. This stunning finding caused an uproar among the resistors and the science media. AI will destroy the planet. End of story, right? Not so fast. This estimate has come under scrutiny for, among other things, ignoring the pace at which efficiency gains have been made in data centers that house AI supporting hardware. Furthermore, only 3 years after Struble presented her team's work, she joined another group of scholars who determined that, quote, the ultimate effect of machine learning on the climate is far from predestined, arguing in favor of, quote, incentivizing uses of machine learning that support climate change strategies while mitigating the impacts of use cases that may counteract climate change goals, end quote. So it would seem that AI-driven climate catastrophe might not be our destiny after all. More recently, another group of researchers examined the carbon emissions produced using popular generative AI platforms and observed that, quote, AI systems emit between 130 and 1,500 times less CO2 equivalent per page of text generated compared to human writers. And while AI illustration systems emit between 310 and 2,900 times less CO2 equivalent per image than their human counterparts. Of course, this result barely registered a sigh among the resistors since it didn't fit their doomsday projections and scorched earth assumptions. However, on the other side of the equation, you have cheerleaders whose sympathies more often than not lie with the technology companies, noting the paltry contribution that data centers presently make to global energy consumption and greenhouse emissions. For instance, a team at Microsoft estimated that AI use constitutes about 0.01% of total global greenhouse gases, although they did acknowledge the potential for explosive growth in energy demand as a result of more data centers coming online in future years. Last month, Google researchers released a technical paper revealing that the median Gemini app's text prompt consumes 0.24 watt-hours of energy, which equates to less energy than watching TV for 9 seconds. Crisis averted. But let me suggest to you that, dueling estimates aside, the reality behind AI's environmental footprint is fraught with underappreciated uncertainties, complex empirical relationships, and politico-technical headwinds. Well-meaning analyses like Falk and others' recent paper on the environmental impacts of Gen AI training tend to focus on one part of the AI lifecycle, or else one type of AI software or hardware, limiting their generalizability. Without the whole picture, it's hard to arrive at meaningful conclusions, especially when the expansion of data centers remains both speculative and subject to practical constraints. Even the butterfly queen of climate and AI at Hugging Face, Sasha Lucioni, published a blog post just 2 days ago, proclaiming that, quote, numbers provided by big tech companies cannot be used to meaningfully compare systems because each company employs different methodologies and assumptions, end quote. Non-linear relationships between AI and carbon emissions, like the ICT environment paradox identified by Al-Nafra speak to the importance of considering contextual factors like national policies and productive capacity before making sweeping claims about quantum leaps in energy demand. Finally, the range of available solutions to AI's environmental challenges is limited by the accessibility of political will needed to implement technical fixes that span the pedestrian to the controversial. These include everything from adopting innovative thermal management techniques to transitioning society to renewable energy. No easy task, to be sure, but hardly the inexorable march toward climate disaster decried by the AI skeptics. The point is that the environmental implications posed by AI are neither as dire nor as insignificant as either the resistors or the hypers would have you believe. We already possess the technology necessary to reduce the emissions produced by AI training and deployment, although putting it to productive use requires alignment with profit margins and political fortunes. At the same time, the unbridled quest for ever more energy and water needed to develop and unleash AI should not go unchecked. There remain important societal questions regarding the consequences of organizing an entire country's industrial and geopolitical fortunes around the promises and perils of a suite of technologies. These issues are best settled by another kind of machine, democracy, that currently rests on unstable ground. Yet the domination of any one sector, be it public or private, over another risks committing a state to half measures or no measures at all. Nature cares not who triumphs, but it will suffer or survive on account of our actions. We should not take this responsibility lightly. Next, given that the focus of this annual conference is research, I would be remiss were I not to discuss the impact of AI on this crucial area of the academic enterprise. As in the case of the environment, AI's infusion into the realm of scholarship has elicited both widespread condemnation and enthusiastic embrace. But as I hope to convey, the mix of opportunities and threats presented by AI evoke a sense of ambivalence that should leave us cautious yet optimistic. For the resistors, AI's invasion of the domain of intellectual inquiry represents a travesty, an abandonment of the classical stereotype of the lone scholar tirelessly poring over texts by candlelight in the quest for truth. To these skeptics, AI erodes the integrity of the research process by taking the human out of the loop, offloading cognitive work that was previously the sole province of the well-trained expert. The act of conducting research, the art of writing its results using arcane language, and the practice of communicating one's findings to the few esteemed members of the hermeneutic circle capable of digesting it are deemed sacred and separate from the tools used by the researcher to advance knowledge. AI only generates useless slop, not useful insights. The writing it produces is mundane, uninspired, and often inaccurate. There is beauty in the struggle of computing or coding by hand, as this form of humanistic agony lends credibility and authenticity to the outputs created. As one open letter by Dutch academics opines, we must challenge the incursion of AI into the craft of research, for it represents an affront to our academic freedom. For the hypers, AI already exceeds the upper limits of human intelligence and is like having a team of PhD-level experts in your pocket, as OpenAI CEO Sam Altman quipped. As such, research can be fast-tracked in ways previously thought to be impossible. AI can help you find grants in your niche area, analyze a data set faster than any scientist ever could, write up the entire paper from start to finish, with citations included, perform peer review tasks at breakneck speed, and even automate the distribution of a thank you letter to the funding agency. In short, there is nothing AI can't do better and faster than humans, save for perhaps actually traveling to a distant land to conduct an ethnography. And even then, maybe AI could evaluate a culture through the use of a digital twin. Given its tremendous capacities, AI can dramatically decrease the time it takes to conduct research and significantly increase the volume of scholarly outputs, adding to the corpus of knowledge at a superhuman pace. While Professor Ethan Mollick has rightly noted that today's AI will be the worst AI you will ever use, there are scientific and ethical reasons why research should not be fully outsourced to our robot overlords. Scientifically, until further notice, AI is still prone to error and hallucination. For example, the day after GPT-5 was released, I prompted ChatGPT to complete a fairly simple statistical calculation to rescale scores on the average wages of university graduates according to the cost of living in the city where a university is located. The output was mostly correct, except it reversed the proper order of my university and another one. When confronted with this obvious blunder, ChatGPT casually acknowledged the mistake. But it took a human eye to review the statistical output before accepting and using it elsewhere. This example suggests that we are not yet at the place where we can fully trust the information AI generates for us, and perhaps we will never get there. This instance also highlights the ongoing need for the kind of foundational learning that empowers researchers to identify issues with AI output. Far from removing humans from the equation, AI has given us a renewed reason to train our students in research methodologies so that they can be the final arbiters of the empirical realities their analyses reveal. Ethically, the only surefire way to uphold the vital principles of transparency, accountability, and fairness in the research enterprise is to keep humans central to its operation. As mentioned earlier, we now live in a socio-technical world where inquiry can be conducted almost entirely by a closed loop of automation. But baked into those processes are the biases and epistemic shortcomings of the machine. In such a circular system, there are no checks on impropriety, no parties held to account for misconduct. Yet, there are monies, institutions, and professional reputations at stake. Also at risk is the confidence the public has in the work that we produce. We already see cracks in the edifice of our solemn profession. For example, a couple months ago, I came across numerous works in an online repository allegedly written by a man named Eric Garcia. However, after a quick search to locate this individual, I realized he was a completely fictional character credited with having produced scholarly essays, which themselves were likely generated by AI. His papers may have been deleted, but the threat of fake scholarship remains. Thanks in large part to AI, research stands at a particularly critical juncture in human history. We have unclear and inconsistent guidance about what is or is not permissible conduct. Meanwhile, AI continues to develop more sophisticated capacities with every passing day. What can we do about it? The first step is to acknowledge, to the chagrin of the resistors, that total prohibitions on AI use are likely to be unenforceable at best and counterproductive at worst. How can we possibly know if an idea originated from a human researcher or an AI system? But simultaneously, we must observe, contra the hypers, that the extreme opposite position, one which permits unfettered AI use, is unethical at best and dangerous at worst. Imagine a world populated with fictitious authors, synthetic data, and so much scientific output that humans can't keep up with the pace of new knowledge, as Bautista Barron projects. Second, we need to reframe how we conceive of human-AI collaboration in the context of research, and accept that some of it is actually beneficial. The work of research has evolved from the page to the cell to the message bar. It is no more virtuous to calculate regressions by hand than it is to rely on statistical software to crunch numbers. We need to now shift from dichotomous thinking that separates the scholar from the tool to a model of human technological hybridity, from using AI to researching with AI. Third, we need to reduce noise and articulate expectations by advocating for clear guidelines regarding permitted forms of AI use by academic journals, funding bodies, institutions, and professional organizations. These standards need to be determined democratically and communicated to relevant stakeholders at all stages of the researcher's career. This approach to AI in research, with its emphasis on the reality of scholarly work, a more complex understanding of the relationship between humans and AI, and a bottom-up guidance that respects the diversity of disciplinary perspectives should position us researchers to navigate the rough terrain AI has set out for us. In preparation for delivering this keynote address, I came across a Kazakh proverb that translates loosely as, "No matter how much you train the wolf, he still looks at the mountains and howls." While this cultural adage was not conceived with AI in mind, I think it speaks to the heart of the conundrum I hope to have illuminated here. No matter how much people push back on the incursion of AI into society, the tide is unlikely to be stemmed. Yet, this does not mean that AI is necessary and useful in all contexts. Beyond this false dichotomy lies an approach informed by ethics and nuanced thinking about human-machine interactions. If there is a place where humans need to lead the charge, it is in determining what the future will be. But getting to that point may require a degree of humility and an embrace of uncertainty that neither the resistors nor the hypers are equipped to accept. So we must look beyond their dogmatic self-righteousness towards a pragmatic view that is both realistic and imaginative in equal measure. And in the spirit of democratizing access to artificial intelligence and knowledge of artificial intelligence, I wanted to mention that the thing I've been working most closely on in my role as an AI faculty fellow is this effort, which is a completely free, for the end of this year, AI certificate program for work and life, which takes place over 8 weeks. It starts on September 25th. It goes live once a week on Thursdays, but then you can watch immediately thereafter. It'll be both streamed and then recorded so you can watch it in case you miss it. There are a number of short assignments in the form of quizzes, and then there is a capstone assignment which asks you to apply AI to either your personal or professional life, and then to use that information and write a reflection about it and how it was or was not useful in those contexts. We have both members of industry outside our institution and also experts from within our institution and members of the local industries like finance, law, and medicine. So it's really diverse in terms of the perspectives that you get, and we hope that this will be a useful resource that people all around the world will take advantage of to learn more about AI in a very soft entry point and hopefully begin their journey wherever it may take them. So I just wanted to provide that opportunity in case anyone was interested. And if you'd like to keep in touch, one of the happy instances of this conference is that I lost all of my business cards in the first day because so many students asked for them. I was delighted to hand it out, but then that meant I had no more to share with others. So if you're curious about keeping in touch or you have follow-up questions that you don't feel comfortable asking here, you can scan that code as well, and it takes you to my Linktree page, which has information about how to contact me and access other things that I've done. So thank you so much for your time and attention. It's really been a privilege to be here, and I look forward to any and all questions you may have. Or we can all have a collective sigh of relief. Sorry, yeah, do you have a question?
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I had a question. So yesterday, I think it was officially announced that the president of our country said that we're creating a ministry. So we're transforming the Ministry of Digital Development into a Ministry of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Development. So I wanted to ask you for your thoughts on this, maybe, or generally thoughts on the governance of AI as like governmental efforts. We know that in Canada there is also a Ministry of Artificial Intelligence. So.
No, the great question. Thank you very much for that. I think it's a welcome development. It shows that Kazakhstan is actually making an effort to be at the forefront of leadership on AI governance at the national level. Because as you noted, there are very few countries that actually have a dedicated agency. Even in the United States, where I'm from, AI is woven into a lot of different agencies, but it is not, we don't have a dedicated branch of government that's focused on artificial intelligence. And related to that, many of you probably heard, because I've had conversations with so many of you that, for instance, recently Albania launched an AI minister to help combat corruption. I think we're likely to see more of that as well. There are, of course, people who will push back against the suggestion that that's a useful thing, that a government should be led by humans and not by avatars or artificial intelligence. But I think that what Kazakhstan is doing shows that it is not going to be left behind, and that it is trying to take a very proactive stance by, as you noted, reconfiguring what an existing government agency does in light of the challenges that AI brings. So I think overall, it's a very positive development, and it's sort of a wonderful coincidence that I'm here while this is happening, but I think it's going to be for the better. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your answer.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. So my question, what are your thoughts about superintelligence?
What are my thoughts about superintelligence? So this is a great example of the divide between the resistors and the hypers. One thing that's important to note is that as the definition of artificial intelligence, there's a lot of disagreement about. There's also disagreement about artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. And even some of the big tech company leaders, Sam Altman and others, they have changed what they mean by artificial general intelligence, which we used to think of in terms of the capacities to exceed human capabilities in basically every way. So not narrow artificial intelligence where it performs a sort of a function in one area like playing chess or predicting the outcome of a sports event, something like that, to being able to be applied across the board. They changed it to mean something like capable of generating $50 billion worth of profit in a given year, which has nothing to do with its capabilities, everything to do with shareholder value and things like that. So artificial superintelligence is a step even beyond that. And you will see predictions from people that we are, 5 years away from that. I've heard things like that. But again, I think some of the examples that I gave show you actually how far we are. And I did a panel several weeks ago with someone who owns a robotics company, and he gave another example. He's from someone who is, very much at the forefront of the state of the art of robotics. And he said the kind of general application humanoid robot that is in your home, that can cook your meals, that can wash your clothes, that can clean the house, he said we're like 20 years away from that, right? So if you hear someone say that we are very close to achieving artificial or superintelligence, they're probably trying to sell you something, right? So I think that's where a place I actually would align myself more with the resistors, because I think that those kinds of claims are often used to generate excitement about new products and also get venture capital for startup companies. So I think that we are a really far way away from artificial superintelligence. There's another question about whether it's theoretically possible. I'm not going to preclude that, but I think we are much further away than the hypers would want us to believe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Professor Joshua, hello. My name is Akmaral. I'm from the press office. I'm very lucky to work at the university because we've had a series of conferences and we meet global voices and very well-known researchers from pretty much every scientific field, mathematics, technology, and this happens repeatedly, and these big names, in science and mathematics, they always say the same thing, that AI does not create new knowledge. I think that this is very anti-hype. So how do we explain hypers? The same kind of thing that AI doesn't create new knowledge. It processes, it just repeats all of the same things that is already well known. There's just one thing that it doesn't do yet.
So that's a good question about, does AI create new knowledge? So I would respond to that by saying, it is true that AI is trained on existing information, and the outputs that are generated reflect the material that it was trained on. So the likelihood that it can come up with something completely novel is probably fairly low. But at the same time, I think it depends on what we consider to be knowledge. And I'll give one concrete example in the area of research. So I was writing a paper and I received feedback from a reviewer. And as is often the case, what you want to do as a researcher, I'm going to build a bridge with Sebastian's talk from a couple days ago, is you want to address as much as you can, to the extent possible, the criticisms of your work. But it's not always clear exactly how you should do that, but you should probably take a good faith effort at doing that. So I fed the paper into one of the AI systems that I use, and I didn't have it right for me, but I said, where do you think I should incorporate these criticisms and address them? And it provided me with some output that directed me to where it might be most profitable for me to make those changes. And then I wrote the amended text myself. So to me, I'm sort of speaking of this sort of hybridity model, but that was new knowledge. I did not intuitively come across the answer to where I should insert the suggestions made by the researcher. I worked alongside AI to determine where those would be, and then I took it upon myself to write from my own voice what was necessary to respond to the reviewers. So I think, again, it depends on how you consider knowledge. I will say that in terms of generating a new theory, I've tried to push AI systems to do that, and I think they struggle, again, because it's so derivative. So I think if you are looking for a brand new theory of how the world works, you're going to be disappointed. But I think if we take a wider view of what we consider knowledge to be, then I do think that there are useful cases where AI can be deployed that expand our mind and what we think is possible.
By knowledge, I mean that something that scientifically matters. Something new that matters for the science.
Something new that matters. Yeah, the newness is going to be, I think, very difficult. Now, that isn't to say that it's impossible, but the way that AI systems, especially the ones that most of us interact with, are developed is essentially in a vacuum, right? It's to scrape existing knowledge. If you're someone like me, you're a real nerd about this, and you've paid attention to what goes on in the legal world. Anthropic in the United States was hit with a $1.5 billion settlement a couple weeks ago. And the argument was that, which was at least initially successful, is that basically Anthropic took pirated material, including things like books I've written, scraped them for information, and used that to train their model without compensating the people who generated that intellectual material in the first place, which seems like it sort of squarely runs afoul of things like property rights and intellectual property. But all those things are in the existing corpus of human thought, right? So I have not seen AI generate something yet that was sort of truly standout, novel, that an expert would look at and say, no, none of us have ever thought of this idea. So is it conceptually possible that that happens at some point? Maybe, especially if you look at how AI is trained. Especially, I pay a lot of attention to how robots are trained, and there are really interesting dynamics. And there are sort of stochastic things that come about. Like you've probably seen these examples where two AIs were asked to talk to one another, and they created a brand new language that no one could understand. I mean, so there's things like that that can happen in the spur of the moment, but I don't think we have the kind of directed creative use of AI that produces truly original, novel ideas and knowledge yet. But I also don't want to date myself by saying that this is totally impossible and it'll never happen, because we have examples of like AI making up languages. So who knows?
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
So thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Aliyah. I'm an undergraduate political science student, and I think I would like to follow up on this development in Kazakhstan. So the government is investing a lot of money into different directions, into developing different AI-related projects. And at this point, given that you're talking about these three different perspectives, I, as a political science student, I'm thinking about the risks that the government is most likely to overlook, given that this communication between researchers and politicians is not well established, and also because there are things like there are things that we know about, like ethics and security concerns, but things like some projects, AI-related projects, will definitely fail, and so this means that we're going to waste money. So what do you think? I think my question is, what do you think are the areas that the government is most likely to overlook, and how we as a generation that is currently in this in the center of this development can help our governments, what we can do, what we can research, I guess.
So a great question about sort of unproductive areas that AI could be used by government, areas that the government might, to maybe be charitable, overlook in its application of AI. I think I will draw on an example from the US context, and that is, you may have heard of the effort, the DOGE effort at the federal level. We also have it at the state level and also at our city council where I'm from, so triple doging. The idea, though, is sort of twofold behind DOGE. One is it's pretty benign, to modernize government systems using new technology. And that in and of itself doesn't necessarily seem like a bad thing. The other part is to use some of that technology to identify places where the government can cut expenditures. And I think what we have seen is, when left to its own devices, where you prompt an AI system to look through a spreadsheet and say, which of these things should we cut? This is where your point about ethics is really well taken. It doesn't consider the human toll of what those cuts mean. So I personally, I'm just one person, I know people who have been fired from their government jobs, not because they did a bad job, not because they weren't performing well, not because they did anything unethical or illegal, but because basically there was this analysis that was conducted, and it was determined that they were no longer necessary to the functioning of the federal government. But we know, for example, because one of my former students was fired from USAID, and we know that there are certain programs administered by USAID that save children's lives. And so when you go in with a blunt instrument like AI and you say, cut a whole bunch of things, the result of that is that children are going to die. Now, whether that is an acceptable loss is a political question, but if we don't lead with ethics, both in the development of AI and in its deployment, and there aren't checkpoints along the way where stakeholders can register their displeasure or their feelings about how AI is being used, we allow the incursion of AI in places where it can have these sorts of harmful consequences. So, as Kazakhstan proceeds on its AI journey, I would hope that there would be opportunities to invite experts to talk about what kinds of guardrails and ethical principles need to be adopted in the use of these AI systems, and then allow for other checkpoints, things like algorithmic impact assessments, human rights impact assessments, having civil society, think tanks conduct analyses that look at the impacts of the use of AI, to promote that work, to distribute it, because I think that what you are going to need is a vibrant political and social discourse to hold a government accountable for when it uses AI indiscriminately and perhaps against the best interests of the people.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. My name is Omar Adama Ibrahim. The question is that with AI capable of writing, coding, and doing research, are we at risk of creating a generation of students and lecturers that outsource thinking? Should university actively limit AI use to preserve intellectual rigor, or embrace it fully and redefine what original research means? What's your take on this?
So thank you very much. This is a really important question about the use of AI in education and whether by relying on it too much, we're going to lose something in terms of the skills and the intellectual capacities that we hope students will gain from participating in education. And I will say that this is an area where I am very sympathetic to both perspectives. So on the one hand, we had this event at my university a couple years ago at the library, and I'll never forget one of my colleagues who teaches in English, like writing courses. She said, I am not interested in teaching students how to use a tool. What I do in my classes is teach students to figure out who they are and how to express themselves. And I don't need AI to do that. And I thought, if you have a very specific purpose in your class and AI is not necessary for that purpose, it certainly shouldn't be required. On the other hand, because I talk with members of the community who are in industry, employers locally, they tell us, we want you, your university, to graduate students who day one can come into our business, whatever that business is, not necessarily strictly computer science related, and to utilize AI to streamline workflows, to improve the efficiency of certain tasks. And so we do want to equip our students, on the one hand, with a baseline level of proficiency so that they're not at a disadvantage in the workforce. At the same time, not every single class needs the use of AI in order to accomplish its learning objectives. And we should be mindful of that. And one thing I think we do really well at my university is, because we're a public university, we really prioritize academic freedom, which means that on the administrative side, we provide guidance for faculty, but we never impose a specific policy on AI, telling them you have to use AI or you have to ban AI. And I get these reactions from students who say, you're allowing us to use AI in your class? And I said, yeah, I gave you specific parameters. I want you in this class to experiment with it and to have some degree of familiarity. And as one of my graduate students said, well, I came from a college where no classes allowed us to do this. It was sort of totally abolished. And I said, well, you're going to find that at this school, there's going to be a range of different perspectives. And you'll just have to, it's our job as faculty members to communicate what those are, because what students seem to tell us, and I think even one of the research projects presented on the first day of this conference noted, it's great to see that this is sort of cross-cultural, is students just want to know, what do we think and how we view the role of AI in the class. If we don't tell them, then that's certainly a bad thing. But that doesn't mean you have to include AI. It just means you have to tell them whether you are willing to accept AI in your class or whether you are prohibiting it. you know, kind of like in the AI for environmental impact information, there is initial research on the impact of critical thinking, among other things, through the use of AI. And the initial findings, although they're very scattered, suggest that there are some reductions in critical thinking capabilities. We don't yet have sort of longitudinal data to prove that that's exactly what happens. But I think it is a good moment to really think about how we consider things like critical thinking in our own classes, to not lose sight of them. And I think the part that students never really appreciate, which is not their fault because they're not instructors, but we are also, as instructors, in an environment in which almost overnight, things change dramatically for us, just as much as they did for you. And so this required us to figure out what we're going to do. And I will tell you, some faculty still have their heads in the sand, and they think students aren't using AI, and they don't care. And maybe a lot of what comes through their class are totally AI generated, and those students will leave those classes having learned nothing. And then there are other faculty members who understand that students are using it, but they're not quite sure how to address it. And then there's another group, I might probably include myself in this group, of people who are actively encouraging use within specific boundaries and restrictions. And so the reality is that you have all three of those types of faculty members in the same place. So I think it is our job as faculty members to consider the very real impacts of what happens when our students are offloading some of their cognitive tasks to AI, but also finding new ways to incorporate it to enrich our material. I'll give you just one very quick example. One of the areas at our university where people are using AI in very interesting ways is in languages, which, you know, while this is being translated live using natural language processing, this is a good example. And what one of our faculty members has done is use AI to generate an avatar of Miguel Cervantes to enliven a text, Don Quixote, for students. So when students want to learn about the novel Don Quixote, they can actually interact with Miguel Cervantes and get feedback from someone who is deceased and learn about the book and why did you make certain choices and why did you make that character the way that you did and why is there an emphasis on windmills? And that is such a dynamic way that I think is a great use of AI that actually does not negatively impact upon things like critical thinking. So part of the challenge is actually that faculty members have to rethink what we do, and we're not very good at this. And we are also loath to change our classes because it takes a lot of effort. But the reality is that there's sort of two approaches right now. One is, especially in the humanities, people who are going back to oral exams and written exams, like we were in the Middle Ages. And that's fine. They have the right to do that. And then there are other people who are thinking about more innovative ways in which we can harness artificial intelligence without losing the skills and the substance of the class that we're teaching. And it's just both of these things coexist in a university at the same time. And so as students, you are likely to get very diverse experiences where a professor may ask you to give an oral history of a work of literature, and you have to stand in front of a class. And then another professor might ask you, like I have an assignment where I ask students to use AI to generate rounds of negotiations between different countries on an international trade scenario, and then evaluate how well the AI does. So being a student now is also very confusing, and we appreciate that. But I don't think that we yet have the data to definitively prove that AI is a net bad on educational or cognitive development, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't consider the risks of being too reliant on AI. Okay, thank you very much.
A special thank you to our keynote speaker today for the insightful thoughts on AI, and thank you all for our audience for participating and asking some really great questions. And now we will, if you'd like to stick around, we will have our closing ceremony, so please join us.
Okay, dear participants, colleagues, students, guests, welcome to the closing ceremony of the Nazarbayev University Annual Research Conference 2025. After very insightful keynote speeches, vibrant discussions, posters, sessions, now we are, at this session, the most probably fun and important session, recognizing the winners. And now I would like to invite the professor. Okay, so just give us some minutes to manage the technical part. We hope that you really enjoyed the conference because we had lots of participants, and our professor, Isam Shahab, will talk about this event and will show some statistics about it. I think that we have very interesting facts. Okay, so Professor Isam Shahab, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for coming to the closing ceremony of this conference. On behalf of the General Chair of the conference, Professor Jumabai, and the Co-Chair, Professor Dina, and Professor Jessica, and myself, and our whole organizing committee, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this closing ceremony and to share with you some very interesting data about the conference. So this was the second annual research conference for Nazarbayev University, and this year really the conference has truly been impactful in terms of the audience as well as the researchers. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Ahmed, our president, for initiating these international conferences and for the funding. Without this funding, we cannot run this conference because I know what's behind the scene. That's why. So after conducting some benchmarking about how we run the conference, and this took us 5 months to look after all the programs and everything, so we decided to use Oxford Abstract. So I recommend anyone at NU would like to run a conference, use this software, this tool. It is excellent. It's done in UK, in Oxford, and it is really an excellent platform to run a conference. Without this one, we'll struggle because, as I mentioned, only 5 months. So this is an excellent platform, and during the submission, we decided to change from last year. Last year was only posters. This year, we decided, no, we need to have abstracts, we need to have reviewers, we need to have like a rigor system to run the conference. So we received 189 abstracts, and these abstracts come from 9 countries, not only from Kazakhstan, not only from the neighbor countries as well. So it's 9 countries. You can see the flags, and maybe you can name the flags as well. And the co-author from 30 countries. co-authors from 30 countries from 4 continents. Of course, we are missing 3 continents in the world, so they cannot come here. So all of this showing the impact of this conference, and really it is international conference, as you can see from different countries. The abstract went through like a reviewing process. It is 2 professors reviewing the abstracts, and they read the abstracts, they mark them, and then we have to respect their views. So if we do an a review, we have to respect their views. So we have 40 reviewers reviewing the abstracts, and we rejected 12 abstracts. In the beginning, I thought I would not reject any abstracts. But really, the reviewer said, no, this is not good, rejected them. And we have some, they withdraw from the conference, about 6 abstracts. And then we have posters, we have 115 posters. We have 60 oral presentation in the conference. So you can see how is the conference running in terms of results. So the conference, this was the first environmental conference at NU. We use sustainability was excellent. Everything was digital. So the trees are there. We don't cut any trees. We don't use any of plastics. So everything was digital. And we saved the money. I think this will please the president as well. So we saved the money. We saved about $5,000 to print all these posters. Of course, we have the world-class keynotes. It's excellent, even from medical, from different disciplines. And we have 10 digital poster sessions. We had 20 oral presentations. We have expert panels. We have workshops. We have a student-led panel as well. So the conference is not just only in one room, it's 4 locations at the same time. So to show the diversity of the activities during the conference. And of course, we had 3 MT with excellent, presentation and from the students. We have 3 MT, and we have a live from SI systems. So this showing again how is the conference breaking the barriers of language. So we have the first bullet point here. You can see how many views the conference globally. It's not only Kazakhstan, by the way, it's all over the world. You have nearly about 4,000. This is up to date, 4,000 people seeing the conference, seeing the abstracts, seeing the posters. I am sure by some time this will increase maybe 10,000, 20,000. We had 20 judges for the posters awards. So again, this is 2 professors judging each session to see as well. And we have 33 oral presentations, oral chairs, sorry, and we have 270 registered for the conference. And of course, the conference will be live until next year. It's not dying today, not the end. So the conference will be live until next year. You can access the conference, access the abstracts, and also access the posters as well. That's why this number will increase, the first one. What I have seen from my experience, this is excellent conference to have the youngest researchers in my history, or maybe in your history as well. So this is the 2 youngest presenters, oral presentation, poster presentation from children in school. This is the final year children in school. Next year, they become a student of our university, I hope so. So we have Tomres, she was presenting oral presentation, and we have Arena, she was presenting poster presentation. And by the way, the reviewers does not know them. Does not know they are students. They review it, they accept it, we invited them to come. I think this is the biggest impact of the 2nd annual conference at Nazarbayev University. We have the 2 students are here, maybe you stand up. This is our future researchers at NU. So I hope you will join NU. I would like to thank you very much, just giving you about what's behind the scene and how is the impact of this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And now I would like to invite the president of Nazarbayev University, Professor Laka Rahmat, to greet our participants, also to thank our keynote speakers, and to give the awards to the winners. Welcome.
At the opening, where you had to endure a recorded message from me. But the event is a significant one for us. We have been running it for a number of years. It was something which started with a wonderful provost who retired at the end of last year, Professor Ade, and Chet Jablonski, who was the vice provost for research and innovation at the university. So delighted that we are keeping this tradition going, and delighted also to be able to give this vote of appreciation on behalf of the university as we conclude this event. I've thanked my colleagues, Provost Ade and Chet, but also a number of other people have participated. We've got Asanbai here. Do you want to stand up and perhaps people can appreciate your contribution? Mr. Asanbai heads up our research infrastructure across the university. He's an extremely busy man. When it comes to us securing our funding from the government, he often spends the entire day sitting, waiting for outcomes, answering questions, and so on. So we thank you for your dedication and the work that your colleagues do. Saule is here somewhere. My thanks to her and to everybody else as well. My thanks to all of you participants. I was speaking to the young researchers last night. It's wonderful that this country has got so much talent. So that it bodes well for the future of the country, that when you've got 15 and 16-year-olds who can compete for something like this, and their abstracts are judged blindly without people knowing, and they get selected and can present here. Both of you are very precocious. You're doing amazing things at a young age. It is my intention to retire in about 4 years' time. You might want to take over from me. So I'm warning you, you've got 4 years to prepare. So my thanks to all of you. My thanks in particular to the keynote speakers, the panelists, the presenters, for sharing your insights, knowledge, and your pioneering research. Your contributions have enriched this conference and inspired researchers, the very young ones, the not so young ones, and as I said, I think the future of science and innovation is in safe hands in Kazakhstan. I would also like to sincerely thank our, sorry, I'm going over this, repeating myself. A special word of appreciation goes to the organizing committee. You have them here. They were chosen partly because they're so good looking, each and every one of them. But we are blessed with amazing people here. Amazing people not just in terms of the contribution they make, but also the dedication to making a difference. So thank you to all four of you. And there's an army of people who have supported them, and my thanks to them as well. And this includes Mr. Asanbai's staff, the poster judges, the reviewers, the session chairs, the 3-minute thesis organizers. It's a fantastic initiative, I have to say. And the many volunteers, the student volunteers and others, whose hard work and commitment made this conference possible. The success of this event would not have been achieved without your tireless efforts, all of you, including the participants. So thank you, everybody. This is one of about 20 events that we are going to be hosting this year. I think this is 10th or 11th or 12th of the year. There are another 8, 9 events still to come. These events have come in different sizes. The largest one was what's known as the Oscars of Mathematics, the major international event held annually, and it's the first time that it was held in this region. Attracted 700 participants, including Fields medalists, fellows of the Royal Society, and so on. There were 2 events organized jointly with Harvard University. There was an event recently in economics which attracted some amazing participants, and so on. We have Professor Zumabai here, who's a major figure in the area of new materials and energy storage. And I think there were at least 5 events just on that topic, which attracted some of the world leaders working in this area. So we're not doing it just for the sake of having lots of parties and lots of dinners. And by the way, I had 2 dinners last night, one at your conference, and then I had to go to the other one. But because dissemination of knowledge and knowledge transfer is fundamental to the fabric of this university. It's part of our mission, and we take it very, very seriously. So through these events, we have enabled higher education across the country to have access to brilliant minds, latest research, and to be able to develop networks for the future. As we look ahead, we will carry forward the momentum generated by this year's conference, this one and the many others, and let us continue to foster a vibrant research ecosystem that empowers our young scholars, strengthen Kazakhstan's position in the global scientific economy, and contributes to solving the real-life challenges. That's all that I have to say, but please give yourselves a big round of applause. It's great to have you with us. And I hand over to Dr.
Thank you, President Vakar, for your warm words and support of the conference. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to invite Professor Isam and Professor Zhumabay Bakenov here to the stage. And also Luis Rojas, the Associate Provost. First of all, we would like to give as a gift to our keynote speakers, Professor Thomas Rench. Also, Professor, please come up here to the stage. Professor Joshua Geller and Sebastian Pirus, please come forward to the stage. Thank you so much for your very insightful speeches and your huge contribution to our conference. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. And also, now I would like also And now we would like to give the awards to the winners of the 3-minute thesis. And Luis Rojas, Associate Provost for Graduate Studies, will call the names.
Yes, thank you, Dina. First, before I call the names, I want to say that this year, as you may know, we celebrate 2 anniversaries. The 15th anniversary of the university. But also there is another anniversary that we celebrate in Kazakhstan, very important one, the 180th anniversary of the famous philosopher, thinker, and writer Abay Kunanbayev. And in his honor, I want to remind some famous words he said about humans should avoid and reject ignorance, laziness, and cowardice. And the 3MT was a very good example of looking for knowledge, working hard with effort, and being courageous to present in 3 minutes the condensate of 3 years of work. And I congratulate you because you are following Abai's words perfectly. I want now name the different winners. First, the People Choice winner, Makpal Rakatkisi from the School of Engineering and Digital Sciences. Congratulations. Second place runner-up, Reza Koramian, School of Mining and Geosciences. Reza, congratulations. Yeah. And the first place, the winner of the 3MT 2025 edition at Nazarbayev University is Makpal Rakatkisi. Sets.
Congratulations.
And congratulations to all winners. All participants for us are winners because they were courageous, looking for knowledge, and working very hard. And I want also to recognize the fabulous work of their supervisors who accompanied them along the last 3 years, sometimes even 4 years of their work, their family, including parents, sons, husbands, because the well-being of our PhD students is connected to having a good social relationship with friends, family, and colleagues. But supervisors also, I want to recognize them because of the good work they did to prepare them and to let them go to their highest standards they did. Congratulations to all of you for this achievement.
Thank you, Professor Rojas. Yes, this is really a great event that we had, this 3MT competition, and we hope that it will grow and become really international in our university. And now we would like also to greet our poster winners, because you know this conference we also had very good poster sessions. In my view, it was really a success. And we have 5 categories, and now we would like to name the people who got the awards. Aliya Nusip and her team, and this is in the health and well-being for the best poster in this research priority. Congratulations. The next winner is Karima Bijanova and Adil Shayahmetov in the category Socio-Economic Transformation, the best poster in this priority. The best poster in the research priority of new materials and technologies receives the team of Maxim Kulikov, Nursultan Sapar, Irshad Kamarхан и другие. Тут очень много ребят. Not here. Okay. The best poster in the research priority of artificial intelligence is received by Aysulu Makash. Congratulations. And the next category, the best poster in the research priority of energy and the environment, we got 2 winners. This is a team by Zulfiya Imanbekova and Azad Abdullayev. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
So just I think, as I mentioned, we have 2 youngest researchers at the history of the NU. So we need them to come here. Yes. We need also to encourage the young researchers. So this is the youngest researcher we have in our conference.
Now I would like to give
Just like
the floor to
about the last one.
Professor Bakenov.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like just to say thanks to the teachers of these 2 young researchers, which trained them, and for their parents who actually sponsored the participation in this conference. And also, like, I think we have to do more about working with the high schools, because as I know, these our colleagues, they were purchasing chemicals and buying tickets by themselves to do experiments. I think we exchange the contacts, and then probably next year we can accept the classmates, following students for internships. You have excellent people like professors, like here we have Dr. Wang nodding, accepting a lot of students in that way. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. So now we are going to have the photo. I would like to thank everyone who participated in this conference and contributed to this event, to all speakers, panelists, and of course the organizing team. Thank you so much. It was a great success. And we hope that in the future we're also going to meet at the NUARC conference many, many times. Thank you so much. Okay, so yes, the group picture, I think that we should take here, or okay. So yes, please, group photo. Everyone, just come down and we'll take a group photo.
This is not correct. So for the group photo, it would be better if we keep the first slide.
Yes,
there is
please,
some
please.
text problem on this. There is, because there is both of them, they are head of the department. Do we have the first slide for NU? NU.
And you?
the conference one. Oh, okay, no problem, because the photo is on this side, no problem. Okay, no problem.
Вот, все.
There is a lab tour at 1:30. If you are interested to see the lab tour, there is a lab tour at 1:30. If you are interested to see our labs, you can stay here and they meet in the registration desk to put your name. So we have a lab tour at 1:30. So you can put your name in the registration desk to start 1:30. Thank you.
The organizing committee, please stay here. We want to take photo together.
Здравствуйте. У нас еще этот лэптор. А мы не сказали, сейчас они разбегутся все. Не придут.
Dina start working in mechanical engineering.
Yeah. Лэптор в 13, да? 13:30. Как сделать презентацию? Вы не подскажете какое-то время? Без очков.
В час 30.
Час 30, да?
Ага, все, давайте. Да, да.
Dear participants, also we are having a lab tour at 1:30. You can check the program, please. There will be also lab tour for everyone who wants to visit our labs at the Nazarbayev University.
Или вот первый, который... Нет, вот этот нормальный. Thank you for being part of the
Давай. Спасибо большое. Я сейчас буду
Я где-то после 7.
Спасибо большое за все.
Вам спасибо большое.
Нет, это вам замечательно провели.
Я
Замечательно.
думаю, да, все хорошо прошло. Вот эта постер-сессион тоже отлично была.
Намного лучше, чем прошло.
Да, да.
Мы так и должны проводить. Oral poster sessions.
Да. Thank you. Thank you.
Next year we will involve more students by letting them pay. They will come.
They will come, yes, yeah.
I wonder now who will go to this lab tours.
It's up to them now.
Yes, up to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, can I ask one poster award was there? No? Nobody come to collect. So do you
One
know?
poster?
Yeah.
I think that we gave to everyone. I think that we gave to the awards to everyone.
No.
All posters were taken.
Yeah, poster award.
Award, yes, they were taken. Yeah.
So when you call for this new materials, nobody coming, nobody was here. You remember, right?
Okay, I don't know because I called it, but we need to ask if there are. Because I don't see certificates, so someone. Okay, so how many?
I don't know, someone took it. I think it's my colleague. We will email you.
Just can you show it to who is there, the names, then we can verify. Yeah, this one, yeah.
This also.
Yes.
This is just for the winners.
This one.
This is yours.
Султана Пусапа.
А можно узнать, кто получил this oral presentation?
They were not assessed. This is just for posters.
Yeah, but
No prize for oral sessions. Because oral sessions were just like a discussion. Yes.
Okay.
They were not assessed.
But can you get some certificate?
Yes, you will get by email.
Okay, great.
We will send it.
Okay, thank you. And this one that I have shown you.
Yes, I will email it to this guy. Was he the presenter?
Maxim Kulka.
I can email.